Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. So I'm Cassidy, and it's good to be here in Vienna. I lived in Germany up until March this year, and now I've moved to London. So I was really excited to come back and be like, oh, I speak German, this is fine. And then I got here and I was like, nope. The Austrian accent. I'm doing a lot of speaking German here and not very much listening or understanding. So if you detect a small accent from me, it's because I'm trying to acclimate to your speech. So as Manuel said, I'm not an engineer, and I don't want to be. But I am a product manager. I'm the head of product at Bumble for platform. So we'll go through a little bit more what that means. But basically, if you're an engineer in this room, you're a customer to me. So you can use this to get your way with product people. So this is me on holiday in Portugal. And some things that I like are problems. This is like the product space. Whenever we look for solutions, I always hand this over to the engineers. I don't know how to do it. I'm also really big into podcasts. If you're into podcasts, let's chat later. We can exchange recommendations. And thirdly, articulating assumptions. You can rarely assume that everyone's on the same page in the room. So it's always a very good thing to take a step back. What I don't like is this industrial bright lighting. It's terrible. My dad's an electrician, and our whole house looks like this. It's absolutely terrible. And jumping to conclusions. So that's me. Let's get into what we're going to talk about today. So what you can expect is to bust two myths. The first one being customers, you guys, know what you want. And secondly, that your platform is only there for reliability and it's too far away from the business to matter. It's just a cost center. And we'll put that all together to prioritize better inside your platform teams to serve people like you. So let's make sure we all know what platform is. When we talk about the platform, we're talking about this foundational tech stack. It probably looks different to whatever company you work at, right? But this is that foundational tech stack that enables engineers to write code, to build software. We have the platform team, which are the team who maintain, who build, who iterate, who run, and care about this tech stack so that everyone else can do their jobs. And then you have me, the person who says those things should be easy for the engineers. They shouldn't have to think about it. These are the tools, the services, and the knowledge provided by that team so everyone else can do their job. So this is what we mean when we talk about platform in this talk. It could look different in your company, but I hope one day you come to the dark side with me. So this is a software development lifecycle. You probably know it, boiled down, very simplified. And you can see at the bottom that this is powered by platform. I talk about empowered platform teams. Typically, it's because you have then a product person. Not everyone's super lucky. But what is important is that most platform teams are caring about the speed and the reliability of which software is developed by their customers. So then usually you'll be working with an infrastructure team. These people care about your hosting, your runtimes. Maybe you're on the cloud. They can all be mixed in together. But what's really important is we all contribute to this. So you don't have to take my word for it. Somebody else also believes in this, that a digital platform is a foundation of self-service APIs, tools, services, knowledge, and support, right? And what's really key here is self-service. If you have to talk to a platform person to do something, it's not a product. Imagine if that was how your products worked in real life. You had to handhold every customer. You'd go out of business. And on the other side of this, the autonomous delivery teams. If you're part of a customer-facing team, you are this team. There's a good article on Martin Fowler's blog with this. It's linked here if you get the slides later. So the first myth is that customers know what they want. You don't. It's just the truth. You might know what you want, but you don't know what everyone else wants, and you also don't know the problem. So I'll give you an example. I used to be on the incident management team, so we would respond to incidents. not an engineer, was not me solving them, but I was the communicator. So I was what's called an incident commander. And there, I was like, oh, it would be so good, if when I needed to escalate to another team, I didn't have to manually find them and find the right code and do the right clicks to call someone else. I know what service is broken. I just want to say, escalate authentication service. How cool would that be? Great, right? I know it's great. It sounds really good to me because that was my problem. I took it to the team, and they didn't care at all. So they weren't treating me like a customer. So who are these people that are going to the platform teams, being served by the platform teams? It's people who use the product, people who make strategic decisions. Engineering leadership is a platform customer. They need to know what's going on. They matter. And also, at the very end of the cycle, it's your end customer who just expect things to work. These are what I call secondary users. Reliability is a given for a platform. It's not something, you need to optimize for it, but it's never negotiable, right? It's just always going to be there. But you need to serve your primary customers, who are your engineers. What's marked out here is everyone else. When finance comes to me and say, oh, we need something for an audit, is it important? Yes. Do I prioritize it differently? Yes. It's very different, right? You can't get out of working inside your company, but you can have better conversations the more you know. So I use this diagram to talk about where we sit in platform. You'll see infrastructure at the core, right? Sometimes you're combined in platform. It just depends on your organization. And then you serve everyone else. What you don't see here, like HR, data, we're partners. They're not customers. Just these are your customers, and you need to know that. There's a really great book called The Power of a Positive No, and here they talk about you need to know your why so that you can say yes to what's important and no to everything else. Know your customers so you can say no to everything else. So if you don't treat your customers as customers and you consider them stakeholders, you will fail. So Marty Kagan, who's a product god for everyone who believes, has a great article on product teams and feature teams. And he says there that stakeholders will still find a way to blame you and your team if their results are not realized. So what this means is when you as a platform team make a decision, you need to know that it's valuable. You need to be sure that it's valuable. You need to know that it's going to be good for your business. Because whenever something fails, someone will say, I don't know why platform did that. Oh, it's their fault. Platform's responsible for that. And then if platform's just taking requests, then they're blamed for everything because they don't apply this critical thinking of why is it important. But also in platform, it's so hard because we're so far away from the business. So how do we get there? We do product discovery. If you're an engineer, this probably sucks to hear because it's not the fun part of your job. I'm really sorry. But when you treat your colleagues, your fellow engineering colleagues, as customers, then when they ask you to do something, that comes in more like feedback instead of a request, right? And this is important to discern. So you need to think about why are these people telling us, and also who's telling us? Is it one person, or is it all back-end engineers who feel this way? Is it one team, or is it 80% of the teams that work a certain way? Who cares? If you're solving problems for one person, you're going to go out of business. Secondly, you need to understand how often this is happening. Often we get requests like, oh, once a year we have this audit. Yes, it sucks. Nobody likes it, right? But you have to do it. But it comes into priority when it becomes more frequent. It helps to prioritize if you know you're going to have that audit for the next 10 years. Can you build a product out of it? And then you need to know your why, right? This is the business value. I'll talk a little bit more how to articulate it a little bit later. So I use this framework, and I consider these dimensions. So depending on what's happening in the business, you can weight these differently, right? If there's an audit coming up, maybe the frequency becomes like less important because you need to solve a more immediate problem, right? But you need to know what's going on around you, what your customers want in order to make the decision. On the business value side, Reliability can be something that your company is going for. I said it's a given, and I truly believe that. But if you're having frequent failures, a lot of companies will invest in reliability to make sure that their product, is sound. And then also on efficiency, we talk about your time. Are you more productive? Do you have time to do something else because you're not waiting for your build or doing something else or looking for documentation? We try to give you that time back. So now people often tell me, Cassidy, I need you to help articulate value for my project. And as much as I would love to be paid to be an engineering translator, this might be a really good dream job because I don't have to do any of the hard work. It's not the role of product. So when we talk about business value, you have to know your why. It's super important. And you have to know where you're working backwards from. So you're not too far removed. You need to first know what the problem is. So I get asked a lot about the different engineering projects. Can you help us connect this to that? Can you make something scalable? Can you do something differently? And the answer is usually, yeah, sure, right? But you all know it. Why? Who cares? And usually, engineers are coming to me with facts. We need to do X. We need to improve the incident management process. We need to escalate the request faster. And nobody cares. What people care about are the consequences to those facts. It's raining outside is not a problem. It's raining outside and you're made of sugar, so you'll melt. This is a problem, right? So you have to finish the sentence. It's not just something. So you need to be sure about it, which means finding the consequence. And you need to know what happens if it is fixed. And you need to know what the experience is of the user if it is fixed. Do they save time? Do they save money? Are they happier for some reason? And then I use this framework. Does it fit with where the company is going? If nobody cares about saving engineering time, doing things that make engineers more productive will not matter, right? Platform still has to care about the strategic fit. The same with confidence. Is it a real problem, or are you just telling me something that's true? If there's not a consequence, do we care about fixing it? I don't care if it's raining. I care if it's raining and I'm made of sugar. And then the other part is measuring the success. Your engineers, probably, if you know, you need to know that the solution solves the problem. If you haven't done that problem discovery, you won't know that. You'll just be having another piece of software, another solution that you have to maintain. That sucks for you too. And lastly is measurability. What's important here is we have all these business-facing teams who are really fancy, and they talk about how much money they're making and how many more customers they got and everything that their features did. Platform is not sexy. It just isn't. And sometimes we can measure things like, deployment frequency or DORA in any other way. But also sometimes we can't. Sometimes the answer is a binary yes or no. Did you enable something? Did you help someone do something? And this is okay, right? Don't let anybody tell you that it's not. But you have to measure something. What doors do you unlock with your products? So you can use these 4 if you don't know where to go. And if you're not in a platform team, you can use these 4 to convince your platform team to do something for you. Right? The first one is what you probably know as DORA, efficiency and quality, right? Can we build software faster? Can we do it with less errors? The second one is reducing risk. Can you make something safer? Can you adhere better to the laws? Can platform give you a framework or something that says we're better because of it? The third one is cost, especially pertinent in this environment. If platform usually has a really unique positioning, especially if you're on public cloud, to be able to add transparency to your costs and reduce them ultimately. Very, very important, but a lot of people just forget about it. And lastly, enabling the new opportunities. If you want to go into a new market, if you want to expand, if you need help, platform is usually the place you go. And this is okay for platform to work on, right? Because they ultimately get to the value. So let's get into how you get to the value, is in the prioritization. You need to work on things that matter. Because platform customers are you and not the end user, it makes it harder to prioritize. It's really difficult to say, we're doing this because we'll get more customers. You already work here. Who are they getting? You're in a firewall of this company, and you're all that we can get. So you need to start thinking first about what you want to get. If you need a trick, use those 4 outcomes I talked about before. They're easy to work backwards from, right? So you have to decide, what is it that I want to achieve? What is it that my team can work on? And then, after you're done thinking, you can start working. But you'll notice here, this is really similar if you've read working backwards, any kind of value stream mapping, KPI trees. All of these things are the same. Think about your goal first, right? So why is it different for platform teams? Is that you have more assumptions to make than any other team. Customer-facing teams say, oh, I want to build this feature or make this change so that we get more people to use our product, so that onboarding time is faster, so that they pay a little bit more at this certain point. Platform doesn't have that luxury. We're here in a firewall. So we have an extra assumption that goes into who you're going to influence. If I make this platform change and reduce build times, then engineers have more time to build customer-facing features. If I do something differently, how do the teams react? And then it goes through the regular chain in terms of, okay, then the customer-facing team can make that business decision. You're empowering them. You're empowering the software development lifecycle. So you can use a framework that everyone knows, ICE. You don't have to do anything fancy. The first part is the impact. This is what we talked about. How many teams are you going to impact? Is it one person, or is it 80% of the engineering organization? Are they afflicted more than once a year? How often is this happening? And if you address it, if you solve it, what does their experience look like, and how is that different from today? C is for confidence. Why what you do will be successful. Does it fit in with the company strategy? Are you doing things for the business? Because if you're solving for engineering productivity when time isn't an issue, nobody will think you're adding value. You need to add value to the business by aligning with their strategy. Do you have a data point? Can you turn it on? Can you turn it off? Can you measure something? Try really hard. And then are you sure about the solution, that it'll actually solve the problem, or will you just be adding maintenance to your teams? All of this, divided by effort or ease, depending on which article you read about the ICE framework, is what it'll take to get there. But I can't talk about ease, because I am not an engineering leader, and I know where I belong, which is not there. So in summary, you have to own the problems. You have to own the outcomes of those problems. You cannot just take requests and expect that people care about your platform team. Right? You can't just say, yes, of course we'll do it. You will be left with a team that owns everything and does nothing. Right? And they will also be really sad. Right? So you need to know your customers, and you need to treat them that way. There's a really, really good book if you're looking to interview internal customers called Deploy Empathy, and it gives you kind of a handbook of how to do interviews if you don't have a UX team, which platform people, we're never so lucky. And you need to discern real problems. Not just, I'm bored, or I have too much to do, or I want something. So when I told the incident team, I said, I'm wasting time looking for the people to escalate to, they didn't care. But when I said, I and also 40 other people spend an extra 20 minutes per incident trying to figure out who owns this, they cared a lot. Because mean time to recover is a metric most companies care about, right? Can you get back on your feet? And so that was the problem, spending too much time, not the process of finding out how to escalate. The platform requires an extra layer of assumptions. You need to make it, and you need to tell people that you made it, right? Nobody else will do it for you. And if you're a customer going to your platform teams, then you can also say, my life will be better because I'm faster. I will have less bugs. You can manipulate them this way. It's OK. And lastly, industry standards can apply to platform teams, but you have to make them work for you, and you have to learn how to weight your different dimensions to make it matter for your company. If you solve for productivity when productivity is not the problem, nobody will care. But if you solve for enabling new opportunities and getting, spinning up time to market, then people will care a lot, right? You can't just operate and say, we're a cost center, nobody cares. And with that, Thank you.
Thank you very much for the insightful talk, Cassidy.
You're welcome.
We are going to open up for some questions. This is better. I do not have to throw so far.
Test, test, test.
And now it works. So actually 2 questions. First question is, how do you measure value? Because you can't measure it in revenue, right? As a normal product.
Yes.
And the second question is, how do you even get people to use your platform? Because they're like not experts.
Yes.
And like there's a customer I work for, and it's kind of frustrating because we have to use their platform or their framework, but we don't have any know-how in our team to use the platform.
Yes. Thank you for the question. So I'll start with how do you measure, and this comes back to depends on what, right? So it matters that you measure something. Let me try to walk you through an example of like most people are familiar like with DORA, so like with the engineering productivity metrics, and if you can measure time to do something, this is okay. And your measurements don't have to be perfect, but they need a path to get better. And so what I would encourage your platform teams to do is know what makes them successful, what they're trying to do. So for example, I worked in a platform team where we had incidents like all the time, sorry, and from this, we didn't really care about the usability of our tools. We cared about the reliability. So we only worked on how can we increase that uptime, right? That's how we prioritize. And then we would measure, we couldn't measure uptime, to be honest, but we could measure downtime. So we could measure incident start and end. And from that, we work backwards. So we measured something. So it depends on what you're working on for what you want to measure. So maybe we can talk later and you can give me an example. But you often won't have just the one framework that works for everything. But you need to be able to find whatever problem you're solving.
Maybe the question was the wrong one. Like, how do you argue your existence as a platform if you can't like give some proper numbers to management or someone?
Yes. Whenever people ask me this, the rebuttal I give is, okay, what if it's gone? Right? What if you don't have the platform? What happens? And if the answer is nothing, everything will work fine, great, you don't need them. But that's usually not the answer, right? It's that you no longer have infrastructure, you no longer have runtimes, you no longer have people you can call when something breaks, right? And so because of that, you can work backwards. Be like, okay, can services run on our platform? Yes. You know, do we serve end customers? Yes, right? And you can look at those things to say, this is our value for now, until you figure out what it is you're working towards. You can find your baseline. Does that answer your question? There was a second question there.
Yeah, like how do you get people to use the platform? And
you need to hire me. No, I'm just kidding. I'm really happy in my current job. But usability is something that I care about as a product person. I work with incredibly talented, driven, smart people, right? And they often assume everyone is as talented, smart, driven, and has the exact same background as them. So when they solve problems, they solve them for themselves. And only when they reach this final moment of launching it out to customers do they realize, maybe it's not that easy for someone else. This is where product comes to help, right? You need that feedback loop in terms of what's taking extra time to do. Why is the onboarding so slow? Where is the documentation? So I was at work the other day, and we're launching a new product. And I said, great, let's do a demo for our customers. And everyone goes, why? What for? And it was because they hadn't finished the problem, right? They thought, it's done, it's in the code base, people will find it. And it's not true. You have to think like the product person, share the feedback of why it's not usable, or like fix it. Like, why isn't it usable? Is there documentation? Is it hard to find? Is it just not in the language you want to have it? It just depends. Does that answer your question? Yep. Okay.
Cool. Let's take one more, if there is one more. Yeah, over there.
Oh.
So I was recently working at a customer where we had a platform team, or we were part of the platform team, and The bottleneck was in the feature teams delivering, delivering the products, right? So us as an enabling team, we thought, all right, we need to enable them to get on with their work. So essentially everything else that was going on in the organization that needed software solutions was then handled by the platform team, because the other option was, well, sorry, no dice for you, marketing, or no dice for you here, finance, right? And that leads to us, just as you said, just accruing lots of software. So in that situation, how would you handle that? Would you tell them, I'm sorry, I feel you, but there cannot be a solution for this, because you need to take that pain to management, or what's your approach there?
What was the bottleneck in the like customer-facing teams? So you said like they were bottleneck, but what was slowing them down?
Yeah, you could not onboard engineers quick enough to accelerate even faster, right? But more for social reasons, not so much technical reasons, right? You can't grow teams that fast.
Okay, so if I can summarize the problem, the customer-facing teams were not delivering fast, or like were not able to build new things because they were spending most of their time onboarding new people instead of working.
No, not quite. Like they had reached their maximum size for the value they were trying to deliver. Okay,
I don't get the problem.
Okay.
Sorry.
Anyways, the work didn't fit anywhere else in the organization.
Okay, so you were just collecting scraps. So,
scraps, exactly.
Got it.
Yes.
Okay, so the problem is like customer-facing teams are doing their job in their domain, and we need a team to own this, so platform can do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that sucks. Yeah. Yeah, it sucks. So I'll totally understand, because I've been in that situation too, where people are like, well, you have a team of great engineers, you can figure it out. And you're like, oh, great, thanks so much for your trust, right? But it's also not the mission of the team. So when you know what you're doing, when you have your why, it makes it a lot easier to say no. And sometimes, because we work in this great firewall of business, that you have to say yes for a short amount of time and then give a different solution. I had it before to say, the team will own it with a plan to offboard it, right? With a handover plan. Or you give me resources so we can build a team around it. Both solutions are fine, but why should a customer-facing team have the privilege to say, we're at capacity, when platform doesn't?
Nice, thank you.
Yeah, cool.
Cool. Then, thank you very much for your talk, Cassidy, once
Thank
again.
you.
We are going into a short coffee break.